Imagine you're in one of these tight little romantic streets somewhere in Venice, Italy, seeing one of these beautiful leather bags placed on the carpet of one of these many street sellers. You know you want that bag. It's summertime, you're in a good mood, you're prepared with your money, confident, ready to strike a deal. The other side throws out an opening number. $500. You flinch. It's way higher than expected. So you counter with 300, thinking you're being aggressive. But are you? Or did your brain just get hijacked? Here's the reality. That first number, it just sets the rules of the game, even if it was completely arbitrary. Welcome back to the Mammoth in the Room, where we explore leadership lessons that stand the test of time. I'm Nicholas Bocconi, CEO of Mammoth Leadership Sciences, and today we're diving into one of the most dangerous and deceptive decision-making biases in business, the anchoring bias. This is the second episode in our series on evolutionary decision-making biases, those invisible mental shortcuts that shape your business decisions without you even realizing it. Stick with me until the end, because I'll share 1. How anchoring bias can trap even the smartest business leaders. 2. The science why our brain latch onto the first number we hear. And then 3 powerful strategies to break free from this trap and gain the upper hand in negotiations, pricing, hiring, and strategic decisions. Oh, and at the very end, I'll reveal one real-life business, you gotta be kidding me, evaluation hyping joke that happened because of the anchoring bias, so you don't fall into the same trap. Let's dive in. Here's a question. Would you pay $50 for a cup of coffee? Sounds ridiculous, right? But what if I told you that your brain is wired to do just that, without you even noticing? Here's a real story, a famous one. I call it the $999 iPhone trick. When Apple launched the iPhone, Steve Jobs didn't introduce it as a $599 device. Instead, he framed it differently. He said, today we're introducing 3 revolutionary products: a widescreen iPad, a revolutionary phone, and an internet communicator. Then, after hyping up its technological breakthroughs, he said people would expect to pay $999 or more for something this advanced. But today, we're launching it for just $599. Boom! Steve, Apple just anchored the audience. Instead of thinking, wow, $599 is expensive for a phone, people thought, wow, this is a $999 device that I'm getting for a bargain. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky first demonstrated this effect in a groundbreaking 1974 study. Participants were asked to estimate the percentage of African countries in the UN. But first, they spun a random wheel that landed on either 10 or 65. The result? Those who saw 10 guessed much lower, while those who saw 65 guessed much higher, even though the number had nothing to do with the actual question. Now that's the anchoring bias at work. And imagine how dangerous this can be in business when millions or billions are on the line. So you think you're too smart to fall for this? Let me remind you, even Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and world-class CEOs have been fooled by anchoring biases. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 most dangerous ways this bias is sabotaging your decisions right now. Trap number 1, the negotiation trap. Why you're losing before you even start. Remember the Tesla private buyout that never happened? In 2018, Elon Musk tweeted that he had secured funding to take Tesla private at $420 per share, at a time when the share price was $350. Why $420? It wasn't based on a real valuation, it was a joke about cannabis culture. But here's the scary part. Investors immediately anchored to that number. Even I remember myself jumping on my phone looking up the stock, market cap, etc. Even though there was no real buyout at $420, Tesla's stock hovered around that price, affecting how analysts valued the company. The SEC later sued Musk for misleading investors, but the damage was done. The anchoring effect had already taken hold. What's the lesson? In negotiations, the first number sets the frame, even if it's completely arbitrary. First hitter advantage. How to beat it? That's a two-edged sword, depending on the situation. But there are basically two ways. One, set the first anchor yourself. If you're negotiating salary, pricing, or deals, make sure you control the starting number. Or two, be mindful of the anchoring trap and challenge the anchor. If someone throws out an extreme number, reframe the discussion with facts and logic. Let's move to trap number 2, the pricing trap. How companies trick you into spending more. Do you know why high-end restaurants put a $100 lobster on the menu, even though almost no one orders it? Because it makes a $55 steak look cheap by comparison. That's anchoring bias in action. What's the lesson? Pricing and evaluation is not just about numbers, it's about perception. How to beat it? Ignore that first number. Don't judge a price by the first figure you see. Step back and analyze the real value. And 2, use anchoring to your advantage. If you're in sales, start high and work down. It makes people feel like they're getting a deal. And then, lastly, in business, the hiring trap. When first impressions fool you. Imagine, and I've been there myself, 2 candidates apply for a higher level executive role. One has a Harvard MBA, the other one went to a lesser known state university. Who gets hired? Most hiring managers immediately anchor on the Ivy League name. But here's the kicker. Studies show that university prestige has very little correlation with long-term job performance. Yet hiring managers consistently fall for this bias, overlooking factors like leadership skills, adaptability, and actual achievements. What's the lessons? Your first impression based on your CV, based on what's written, crafted, lied, spun on LinkedIn might not be the best indicator of long-term success. How to beat this perfect CV impression Ivy League syndrome? Well, delay forming an opinion. Gather multiple data points before making a judgment. And then blind the process. Remove names, schools, and irrelevant details in the early hiring stages. All right, let's summarize the takeaway. How do we not get hijacked by the anchoring bias and take back the control? 1, flip the frame. If someone tries to anchor you, challenge it immediately. Ask, what's the real value here? Number 2, use the multiple estimates trick. Instead of relying on one number, get several independent estimates before making a decision. Define high and low ends. And then 3, train yourself to spot it. The more you recognize when you're being anchored, the easier it is to resist. All right. Again, we've only scratched the surface. Anchoring bias is everywhere, in negotiations, pricing, hiring, and investments. But the more you understand it, the less power it has over you. Next week, we're tackling another dangerous decision-making bias, one that keeps even the smartest leaders stuck in bad decisions far longer than they should. All right, thanks for listening and watching. And if you want to outthink your instincts and make better business decisions, tune in again. Subscribe, rate, and share with anyone passionate about leadership. And lastly, if you're interested in more, you can order my book. It has the same title as this podcast, The Mammoth in the Room. It offers a practical roadmap how great leaders and their teams embrace evolutionary truths for outstanding business results. And it does that in 3 sections, on people, on strategy, and on implementation. Until next time, lead wisely, think critically, and don't let your brain run your business on autopilot. Simply because first and foremost, it's built for survival, not for long-term strategy. Nicholas Bocconi, The Mammoth in the Room.